I'd rather work with a small pool of the A plus clients as opposed to a large pool of the D and C clients. Yeah, their rental units or super, super low budgets or unrealistic budgets, or you know what I mean? And I don't like to sound like an asshole when we talk about budgets because I understand, especially in today's day and age, like money's tight for a lot of people, right? So with that being said, there's money out there. And then certain things, just like I said, they cost what it costs.
Welcome to the Onsite Podcast. We chat with contractors, educators, industry professionals about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's fucking get into it.
What's up? What's up? We are back again, episode 16. Today we have a special guest, one of the contractors from within the Elite Builder Society. His name is Adam Popovic from Burlington, Ontario, with the 804 group. He is a renovation and builder in Burlington, Ontario, and I'm super excited to have you here today. Thanks for coming on, Adam. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
So tell us a little bit about your business. Where are you from? What do you do? How long you been in the industry for?
Been in the industry probably about 15 years or so. Kind of got into it pretty much right after school where, I went for architectural technology, kind of wanted to get into the whole project management thing. It kind of stemmed from, a brother of mine getting into the course as well. We had some chats about it. He's more on the commercial side. Once I got into that field, wasn't really for me. I don't feel like you have a lot of creativity and, stuff like that on the commercial side. It's all about, essentially just, you can only get so creative building a bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really for me entirely. So I kind of reset, kind of got into the residential space. And then, the more I got into that and the different types of people I got a chance to work with, it kind of gave me an opportunity to grow, learn different skills, learn different techniques and different ways of doing things. And, you get to be a lot more creative in the residential space, I think. So in terms of what I do, I mean, honestly, it's a little bit of everything, man. Like as a general contractor, I think you need to, have your hand in every pot of the trade. You're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whether it's, rough framing, finish framing, whether it's, we try to stay away from, the license stuff where you're doing electrical, plumbing and stuff like that, but you need to know it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, we basically do everything. I've dipped my hand into everything. So yeah, that's a little bit of a background on me.
Nice. Well, if you guys check out Adam's content, your Instagram is 804. What is your Instagram handle?
It's at 804 group.
Okay, yeah. If you go check out Adam's content, you'll notice that a lot of his showers that he's working on, he doesn't specialize just in showers. He does also, main floor renovations and everything else under the sun. But you'll notice that a lot of his stuff is super tight. All of his joints are all mitered in his tiled showers. And so Adam's really focused on, really differentiating himself in the industry, specifically within Burlington, Ontario. Within Burlington, he's definitely differentiating himself, picking up some really high quality projects. So, if you're wondering what quality of work Adam does, just check out his Instagram account. You'll kind of be able to kind of sift through that gallery of projects that he's worked on. And he's got some really cool projects coming up and on the go right now. Just also opened up a storefront or an office or headquarters or HQ, whatever you want to call it. Everybody,
all of the above.
All of the above. I know when you're a contractor, the excitement is kind of built around, okay, let's get an office, let's get a space, but it takes a certain level of understanding with your business for you to get there. And, Adam's really focused on doing something a little bit different. Again, continuing to differentiate himself in Burlington. Tell us a little bit about the headquarters. What are you calling it? HQ or the office? What are you labeling that thing?
I haven't decided yet. I kind of like the HQ that you've thrown out there.
Yeah.
For myself and the crew, we kind of we call it the shop right now, because that was the whole priority of it, is having that shop space to, that's where we keep our tools, our materials and all that kind of stuff, right? The office part of it, that kind of just, snowballed from one thing to another. Yeah, well, maybe we'll come up with a fancy little name for it. I don't know, Bat Cave or something.
Bat Cave, there you go.
Dumb shit like that, right? But yeah, well, we'll see what that materializes into. But Yeah, no, it's coming along. We finished our roughing stage. We got drywall up now. Literally taping is happening as we speak. Once that's done, we'll start getting into our finishing. We've
Mhm.
ordered majority of our millwork. I've kind of gone through the process of, some of the feature walls that we're doing and, how we're going to build them out and structure those. So once the taping's done, we'll get some primer up and then we'll start getting into, our finishing, our trim, our tile, our floors, our features and all that stuff. So really looking forward to that. And then finally seeing it, kind of all come together. It was an important thing to have in terms of, like you said, like, how are we going to differentiate ourselves from every other contractor in Burlington, Oakville, this GTA, let's say, right? So, there are there's a lot of great contractors out there,
Mhm.
100%, especially in this area. We're in a pretty renowned area code, if you will, just next to Oakville. So, our goal is to work with, higher end luxury clients that, appreciate and value quality.
Yeah.
And, you know, this whole premise of this office, this showroom that we're building up is to kind of give clients or potential clients an idea of what we're capable of doing. You get firsthand look and feel being in our space. We can, finish spaces in different ways and different textures, different materials, and show the different services that we can provide. And they get to see it in person, right?
Mhm.
So it's always, there's a lot of salesy guys out there, and that's part of the process for sure. But having clients to really be able to touch and feel materials, be able to visualize what something's going to really look like in their space, right? Whether it's a stone, whether it's a trim, whether it's a certain type of wall finish, a certain type of feature material finish, or oak, or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
So that was the whole premise about it. It's a big investment for us, but I think it's something that's gonna pay off in the long run in terms of being able to attract the higher end client that, like I said, does appreciate and values quality.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it definitely will convert. It's going to come down to, making sure that the whole package is around that too. And I know that you're working on
Mm,
all those elements as well. You're definitely correct. Burlington, Oakville, those are competitive areas. Ontario, GTA primarily, there's a lot of people there. And when
yep.
you have a lot of people and you're trying to filter to a premium crowd, generally that means that if there's a lot of people, there's a service demand for the entrepreneurial spirits that feed those people so their businesses can be successful. And so, when you're in a smaller location, it's a little bit more challenging to get, a large amount of high end clients. So you're definitely correct. I think focusing on differentiating yourself, showcasing your skills and abilities to at least give the clients the confidence, that you can deliver this exceptional product, which you can, because if you look through your content, you can see that very much so. And a lot of contractors that are out there kind of miss this mark when they're like, hey, I want all these premium clients. Well, you need to have the software, you need to have the skills, you need to have the subs, you need to have the suppliers, you need to have the materials, you need to have the validating, supporting information that gives clients the reassurance that you're the right person to help them bring these things together. And I think you're definitely on the right track to do that. Just even with the projects that you're doing right now, you can just see the level of detail that's put into it. And a premium client will really appreciate that. There's a lot of work that's going on out there in that area. And there's a lot of people that are hungry and there's a lot of people that are busy. People that are busy obviously have some good skills and abilities. I know that you guys are, you're pretty busy. I don't know if you're chaotically busy right now, but you're busy enough that you've got, a significant amount of workflow coming in that you can continue to grow. And so I'm excited to see the HQ kind of come together and, potentially even, coming to Toronto. I've got a bunch of contractors that we're working with out there. I feel like I need to go do a little bit of a circuit and visit with everyone, but I know that place is going to be a big differentiator for you. So no, it's exciting. So tell us about what kind of projects do you have on the go right now, and do you have any cool projects coming up?
Right now, we're actually literally as we speak, we have one that we're working on with three steel beams going in right now. So we had a bit of a pivot on this project, basically a whole main floor that we're doing, kitchen, kind of taking the original kitchen, flipping it over to the other side of the house, or other side of the main floor, I should say. But structurally, we had to make a pivot because what the engineers had originally anticipated wasn't the case. and then how the house was originally built was wrong would be an improvement. So it was a lot of faulty structural work, point loads literally sitting on plywood on two
Is it
separate
two
points.
story? The two-story building?
2-story, yeah. So there was a lot of shoddy stuff done, overspan floor joists. So that kind of screwed us over in terms of now adding a third beam. So we went originally from planning for LVLs to 3 steel beams. So that's happening literally right now. I think guys are just getting packed up for that, or set up on site for that. And yeah, we got a few other, kitchen main floors coming up. We always have bathrooms in the pipeline. But yeah, our goal is,
those are the miter
bigger,
the miter tiles are what are bringing in those bathrooms.
The more people see it, the more they want it, right? So I mean, we try to show it off. I think my guy does a super good job with them, and he takes pride in doing them. He takes pride in his work. He's like me, where he's very OCD when it comes to things being as perfect as humanly possible. So once you find those right guys to, whether they're on your crew or you sub them out or whatever, you find those right guys on your team. It's important to keep them happy and keep the business flowing, because that's how we get an opportunity to build a lot of cool shit, right? We actually have a really cool one that got redesigned by the designer, but we won't be able to get into that one until December. They did a really cool redesign on this bathroom that we're going to be taking over. It's got a few cool features in it. Nice custom vanity. It's going to have a niche that we've never done before, but
okay,
it'll take some time, but it's going to be a really cool bathroom. So
tell us a little bit about the niche. What makes it so special?
It's just the shape of it. So ironically, the way that it came about, so we're working with a designer on this one. She, brought us in on it. So the original plan was, these large format tiles and things like that. A lot of what we typically do, just a square box niche. I think we were going like wall to wall on the long wall with like an LED light in it. And then it kind of got reconfigured because the couple is actually going away for 2 months to South Asia, I believe. So they kind of gave it this South Asian, like Indian flair in terms of style. And the niche itself is, kind of square, but at the top, instead of being square, it actually arches into a point. So now we're doing a tiled, arched, mitered niche.
Mitered. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. I just watched a video, not your guys's. I don't know who this guy was, but they did and I was thinking that there's going to have an arch in it of some type, because I was like, the only thing that would make this more challenging is throwing an arch, trying to mold tile around a round corner. But there was a video that I watched of this guy, and it was long format, so it was like 48-inch tile. And what they ended up doing was they ended up coming down the wall and then curving onto the bench, and then curving back under the bench and then down to the floor, and it was all mitered, and it was all the same tile. So the vein followed in the little folds. And so if you broke one of those, you're done. And they're 48-inch tiles. So he mitered these long 48-inch strips around a radius. Wild. And I've looked at the work that you guys do, and without question, you guys are more than capable of doing that. I know it's super tedious, super time consuming, but if you have a client that's willing to pay for that level of creativity, that's what gets designers excited. That's what gets contractors excited, because we're so used to, unfortunately, being kind of pushed down. How can we save money? How can we save money? And it kind of limits our creative skills. There aren't enough people out there that are willing to look past the investment and say, you know what, I want to create something unique and something special. And so whenever you get those opportunities, it's fulfilling for sure, because finally you get to see what you're capable of doing. So I'm excited to see you guys work on that arched niche. That'll be unique. And you're gonna miter the whole thing. You're gonna miter
it'll be the arched part. So like the bottom is obviously just like a straight square shelf.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you get up to a certain point here, right? So you got square here, which is pretty standard, and then it'll start to curve at this point into a point. So it's not going to be like a full arch at the top. It actually you know, it's gonna, I don't know how to really do this with my fingers, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I got
kind of
it.
like a point with an arch off of it,
Yeah,
right? So it'll be challenging, but like you said, right, it's an opportunity to do something that people aren't doing. It's
yeah,
also an opportunity to, you know, showcase a skill that not really many people can do.
yeah,
And then on top of that, it's also great to have clients that understand the time and effort that really goes into doing stuff like that, right?
yeah.
Because we had to, you know, originally we fit what we could do for them within their original budget, and then you know there was the redesign, and I guess you know they fell in love with it, and you know we gave them a price for what it would be an additional, and
Hmm.
I think it took them all of less than 5 minutes to decide. Like, yeah, we want to move forward with it. So, you know, it's nice to get that trust, I guess you can say, from the
Yeah,
client, and
confidence,
also,
confidence.
yeah, the confidence, and also,
Hmm.
you know, the understanding that, you know, this is what it costs to get up to that level of finish, right?
Yeah,
So, because it's not going to be a regular niche where, you know, you might be there for the day taking care of it. Like, this is probably going to be a couple days, few days between, you know, making all these little sliver cuts,
yeah.
mitering all those little sliver cuts. You know, back to the bench that you were talking about. I don't know if the one that you saw was curved and went down to the floor.
No, it souped back into the wall and then
Yeah,
curved.
okay. So I think we're talking about the same one, right? Like they
Yeah,
built a bench like this that went all the way around.
yeah.
It's these fucking Russian guys, man. They do some crazy shit. They do some crazy shit, man.
But it was long
It's
format though, so it was 4 foot tiles. So he had
yeah,
a 4 foot miter,
yeah. And he's
and then it
mitering both
continued.
sides of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? So,
crazy.
and that's you can imagine how long, just forget the rest of the bathroom, forget the floors, forget the walls, forget the rest of it. Just he probably spent more time on that bench than every other
Yeah,
part of that
every other
bathroom
trade.
combined. Right? Exactly. So, and that's the thing, right? Is being able to find people that understand that, being able
Hmm.
to find the clients that value that and want those things. And, you know, because at the end of the day, we always talk about, you know, pricing in our business. And there's two things that drive cost. It's material and it's labor. Which one are you going to cheap out on if you want
Yeah,
to, you know, you're either going to get cheap labor or you're going to get cheap material. If you want to cut
or
cost, or
both.
you can get, or both, right? So, you know, our goal is to work with clients that can appreciate proper labor,
Yeah,
skilled labor, and then material. You know, sometimes you can figure some things out with, as long as you're not getting too cheap, right? There's obviously levels to material, but I think the important part is as long as you can produce a quality final product, that's really all that matters, right?
no, yeah, and it is about having the clients that really want that level of service, because they have to understand, a normal bathroom. Like for example, like let's just throw it in the universe. We got a client who wants a normal, what are they, 5 by 10 bathroom, 5 by 8 bathroom
I
with
think
a
it's like
little
five by
towel.
eight is like the standard, like
Yeah.
I call them shared bathrooms or kids bathrooms or whatever. You have a tub
Hmm.
in it, you know, a little 30-inch vanity toilet next to it. It's typically 5 by 8, maybe 5 by 9.
Yeah. So here in Canada, those are anywhere between 20 to 30K roughly, right?
Yeah.
Just for a standard one. And then you start adding in these other elements, and like, you throw in a custom tiled shower, it immediately could add another $10,000 to $15,000 on top of that
Yeah.
immediately. And a lot of people want the pretty shiny object, but don't necessarily understand what it takes to get there. And so, hopefully this gives some people that are listening that are potentially clients a little bit of a perspective of the work that goes into it. And you have to appreciate that. It's like buying a Louis Vuitton purse. You're not gonna, get the same experience from going to buy, I don't know, a Coach. I don't know what another, yeah, Coach. Is that even a purse?
Well, to be honest, I think the ones that a lot of people are looking at right now are some of those what do they call those? When you
Birkin?
go to no, when you go to the flea market purses, the knockoffs.
The
That's
fake
the
ones.
price. That's the price point a lot of people are looking at right now, right? Hey, I mean, some of the I like
Yeah,
to.
unfortunately, you
I,
cannot do that in this scenario. You can't
no,
this isn't China. You can't just reenact, hours and hours of time, miters, all this other,
yeah,
intelligence. You can't just reenact that. It's just unfortunately not like that. And I think a lot of people unfortunately think that that's possible. They think that they can still get the shiny object without spending the money, and they just can't.
And that's 100%. And that's kind of the issue. And you see a lot of people out there that think they can do these miters, for example, just to stay on the topic. And I've seen, my Tyler sends me them all the time in terms of, going into a job that he has to fix or whatever. And it's like the gaps in the miter are huge. The tile edges are chipped. The epoxy doesn't match color, or it's not sanded, or just, there's so many different elements to it, right? And sure, if that's what you want to pay for and you're happy with the finished outcome, cool. But that's not going to be us. And we have to price it appropriately, right? So, if somebody's going to go in and charge you $1,500 to tile this bathroom with mitered niches and tile edges and this, that, and the other, you can expect it to look like it was only $1,500.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody that you're going to pay $5,000 to come in and tile your bathroom. That's going to look like, fucking Picasso tiled your bathroom.
Yeah.
So, and that's the big difference, right? So it's very, very noticeable, the difference in the quality of work, right?
Yeah.
So
I completely agree that, at the end of the day, we as contractors, especially like at this level, want to put forth, the best quality, the best product. Not everyone wants that. Some people are like, bargain deliveries. That's what they do. They're cheap in and out. That's what they do. And that's great. But when clients start mixing, their expectations with the wrong contractor, it really starts to fumble the entire industry. Like if a client wants this Picasso type bathroom, but they don't have the budget, champagne taste on a beer budget kind of saying, whatever that is. If they want that, and then they ultimately go with the other contractor and there's levels of disappointment, it gives the industry a bad name. But at the end of the day, the client just went in the wrong direction. I think the other part to this is like, as contractors, it's our job to try to navigate these people and their expectations to try to let them understand what the outcomes could look like. Show them some of these other contractors that they're potentially going to jump into bed with, that are saying they can do whatever it is that they're doing. I always really enjoyed when I was, in this industry, I always really enjoyed trying to paint the best picture I possibly could for the client, that, there is option A, B, or C. I might be option A, and my price is going to be this, and option B might be this, and their price might be this, and option C might be this, and their price might be this. But these are what you're going to expect when you get that. And you have to, you can't just assume that they're going to be able to navigate those complications that are going to arise throughout that process. You kind of need to paint that picture to the point where it's like, if you really want the Taj Mahal bathroom with the mitered showers and the curved niches and the curved bench, then you got to wait if you don't have the budget, or you got to go get some financing. Because if you go down that path and you pick the wrong guy, that you're still putting those expectations on him, he's going to fail because he can't deliver, and you're going to fail because you don't get what you want. Right. So clients sometimes need a little bit of guidance, or a lot, in the initial phases of the project, so that they can either patiently wait till they have the capital, get some extra financing if they need to, if it doesn't fit where they were thinking of, and just kind of be navigated a little bit better. I think, us as contractors really got to focus on making sure that our clients are as educated as possible, because it will give us more opportunities to build these Taj Mahal bathrooms, or, renovations or builds with customers that actually can appreciate and understand, what we're trying to deliver here. I know it is very hard to get into the super, super high end world, that boutique builder type of space. It is a bit challenging, and the only reason it's challenging is because there's a smaller percentage of clients, right? And they're making their informed decisions based on information that's presented to them. So I love what you're doing with this, with the Bat Cave, or the HQ, or whatever you want to call it. I think, and I know that you're doing some super cool things in there that will give clients just a perceptive understanding of what you're capable of doing. I love what you're doing with your content. I love the relationships you have with, your trades and your vendors and stuff. It's you do have a Super Bowl competitive. I always call it like when you build your army of subs and suppliers and vendors, you're kind of like Super Bowl ready. Like, this is like a winning team of people. Throw us in, we'll win the Super Bowl. That kind of situation. And I think you guys are on mark to be that type of team for sure. Just from the work that I've seen you do over the past couple months that we've been working together. So I think there's going to be some really big projects around the corner for you, and I'm excited for you.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, that's kind of been the goal right from the get-go. I come from, working with people in the past that, I've had the opportunity to learn a lot from. And I've kind of seen the different avenues of, what this industry can present, and that's definitely the avenue that I want to take. Like you said, you're aiming for that small percentage of high-end client. But one thing I've always said to myself for a long time is I'd rather work and fight to work with that small percentage of people, right? And then really be proud of what we're building, really be excited about what we're building. Then on the flip side, doing a lot of these, I call it, I'd rather work with a small pool of the A+ clients
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a large pool of the D and C clients,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's rental
Conforming.
unit, yeah, they're rental units or super, super low budgets or unrealistic budgets, or you know what I mean? And I don't like to sound like an asshole when we talk about budgets, because I understand, especially in today's day and age, like money's tight for a lot of people, right? So with that being said, there's money out there. And then certain things, just like I said, they cost what it costs. And it's hard to get people to, just I always ask people, I'm like, what's your budget for this project? Especially when we get into kitchens and things like that, because there's so many different levels and grades of millwork. It's like we need to know, like, what are you comfortable with spending, right? What's your this is our top end of the budget. This is where we'd rather be. I think clients have this misinterpretation that, they're going to give a number and that's what we're going to charge them. Well, it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, right?
Well,
Like,
people
to,
get number fixation. People get number
yeah,
fixation. So as soon as the number is presented, like let's say that the contractor before you comes in and he says it's going to be $15,000, $25,000, whatever it might be, they're
mm,
fixated on that number. So then when you say, well, no, it's going to be $45,000, they're like, well, how's that even possible? Because this other guy. So now they're trying to justify that guy's number, and you're in this position. And so, one of the things that I always like to, one of the things that I really, used in my sales approach was, I never really say budget. I always say, like, what's your investment? What are you comfortable investing into this project? Because at
mm,
the end of the day, that's really what it is. It's an investment into something that is special for them, and just understanding where they're at. Because if they have this number fixation, which everybody gets, like you go to a car dealership, you're going to go buy a car. The guy spouts out a number right away, and you're fixated on the number. You're not
yeah,
building the product around the number. That's just what the number that's in your head. And now all of a sudden, you're like, everything's related to this number, even though that number may not even be relevant. It could just be a number that was pulled out of the universe and has no relevancy behind it. So I think, like, our job, again, back to, educating the client, is really like repositioning their frame of mind into what this truly will cost. Like, I love when the client really knows what they want to do. I love when a client really has done a little bit of time to investigate what they want, and they're not wasting our time, because, like, it's a lot of fucking work to build out an estimate. It's a
yeah,
lot of work to think about some of this stuff. And when the client is
yeah,
just there to price shop, it's a kind of a kick in the dick, at the end of the day. And so I think trying to navigate our customers through that whole journey is a part of our job. It's part of our responsibility, but it's also really important to understand where they're at currently, because if they do have number fixation, it really blocks our ability to properly navigate them. And sometimes you're coming in at the end, sometimes you're coming in at the beginning, and you're creating this. Let's say that you were the first guy on site. You're looking at the
mm,
job, and you're the first guy there, and you're talking to them. And you're like, okay, it's going to be 45K, and they're like, holy shit, are you serious? And then the next guy comes in, and they're like, oh, that guy, they're too expensive. We can do it for 25K. And then they're excited. And that's what happens a lot of times when clients hire these lower priced contractors, because they had this fixation on a number that scared them. And then they end up dropping down to this other guy. They hire the other guy. Then they call you back and they're like, hey, can you come fix all our miters? Because they sucked, and I'm sure that's what you're kind of experiencing. But I think as you progress, and as you get the HQ or the back cave finished out, and you have these tools and resources in front of you, plus we're working together, you'll be in a position where you'll be able to navigate that client through the conversation. So no matter if you're at the beginning, you're at the middle, you're at the end, at least you can deal with where that client is. Because if they are on Avatar, and I know you're there too, but I want to close every job. If the client's on Avatar, they really want to do it. I want to make sure that I navigated that conversation perfectly so that we can avoid losing that opportunity, because sometimes that also is what happened. I mean, I've lost jobs in my journey where I said the wrong thing and they were on Avatar, and I'm sure you have too. And it's just part of the game. You gotta get the reps to continue to proceed forward. So I know we're coming up here on some time, but we never talked about your family at all, which is something that I really like to fixate on. So you're married, you got kids. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I got two little ones. That's kind of the whole 804 brand is, 804 is my daughter's birthday. So her birthday is August 4th, so when I started this and, I was kind of trying to think of a name. You see all these names out there. It's just like everybody just does their fucking initials and shit, right? So I don't feel like there's, too much creativity. There's not too much thought that goes into it. So, I've always thought a name is really important, right? And it's also been a good driver for conversation starters, right? The amount of times people ask me, I was like, what does it mean? What does 804 stand for? Some people try to, that's not an area code around here or whatever. So
yeah,
it's a cool conversation started that way. But it started, right after my daughter was born. And that's kind of the driving factor to the name. And then, I got a little boy as well. He's a little over 1. He was born in May. So he's
pissed. He's pissed that he's get his name.
He'll get something at some point. That was just him coming out of the house just now. So he'll get something. I'm sure he'll get something. We'll see what what he gets into and stuff like that. But he's already showing a lot of signs of athleticism and kind of liking a lot of the typical man shit. Right, he likes his monster trucks. Yeah. He likes his, he said he's already, 14 months old and kicking a soccer ball around and stuff like that.
There we go.
So we'll see what we get him into, and we'll see what we can name after him. So
there you go. So 804 Group is named after your daughter.
It's for my daughter. So hopefully she'll never have to swing a hammer in her life, but she's calling the shots right now.
That's good. That's good, man. And you're married. You got any other kids on the way? Any more plans for any more? Well, you froze there. Adam here is one of the contractors that I've been coaching for just over 6 months, almost at 6 months. I think we're just hitting our 6-month anniversary here right away. And so, these are people that we get to work with all across North America. We'll also be chatting with different educators and service providers. So I think, Adam, potentially you got your signal back here. Oh, he's still fumbling getting it brought on, but these are the type of conversations we have. So the only way we can grow this podcast is if you share the show. So I would really appreciate that. We're growing on every platform pretty quickly, actually, and that's pretty exciting. We've got a long list of guests on the dock to speak with, long list of contractors that we're coaching on the dock to speak with. So I'm super excited. And the name of the show is Onsite. It's about getting contractors on site, talking about some of the projects they're working on, and so that's where a lot of these conversations come from. So if you're supporting the show, I appreciate it. If you're just listening now, make sure to give us a follow and share this with somebody that you think would benefit from it. Adam, are you back online here? No, damn internet. The GTA, just putting it out there, has literally the worst Wi-Fi. I coach a few different contractors there, and it is super spotty. I don't know if it's just, I don't know what it is, but it is always super, super spotty. And Adam is getting ready to do some structural stuff. So I don't know if we'll get him back, but hopefully we do. And if we don't, it's a great conversation with Adam. Go give him a follow on Instagram. It is at 804 Group. His website, if you want to check out some further stuff, is www.804group.ca. So, hey, this is what it's like, technical difficulties. This is how the world works. Appreciate you, Adam. We'll chat soon.
All right, that concludes this episode of the Onsite Podcast. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please pay the tax, share the show. Guys, if you want to be a part of the Elite Builder Society, all you got to do is pay $49 a month. That's it, $49 a month. You get 20 group coaching calls every month, okay? Go to ebsworks.com and register today. If you enjoyed the show, please pay the tax and share the show.